I think the heart of what you're getting at right here is these three topics have kind of flipped MAGA on its ear a little bit, because
Yeah.
I come from OG, as Steve Bannon will call me, original gangster MAGA. When Trump backtracked on, let's call it Russia, Ukraine, when he then said he was going to not deport farm workers and hospitality workers, MAGA kind of flipped down a little bit. And then the Epstein file, it just feels like this is a continued, it must be so salacious and so big, Mark, that it goes beyond both lines, that they didn't want to tick off a lot of wealthy people, a lot of high, powerful people, and also a lot of deep state people. So maybe they're all kind of sitting on it. But I do agree with you. There's an issue going on right now within MAGA. Like, what is MAGA? Can we redefine? Can we define what MAGA is? And it turns out what MAGA may end up being is whatever Trump wants it to be at the moment. And
Right.
Batya, I will tell you, if you stick around long enough, Trump will, not Putin, but Trump will make all of us look like fools several times over.
Well, Eric, I got to disagree a little bit. I wouldn't say that MAGA is whatever Trump says it is. What I would slightly modify that by saying Donald Trump has a genius for reading the room, for taking the temperature, both of his base, but also of that sort of 10% of Americans who don't fit neatly into either side, who are sort of much more socially conservative, but much more economically liberal. He is so good at reading where the nation is at. So I would just say it's not that MAGA is whatever Trump says it is. It's that he really has a great sense.
Okay,
Yeah.
so is deporting all illegals what Trump wants to do, or is it MAGA, or is it some of each? I mean, help me out here, because how do you say we're going to deport everyone who's here illegally? We're going to start with the criminals and then deport everyone, and then say, well, the actual hospitality and agricultural workers will be on a sensitivity basis, so to speak. So it's all, or it's not all. Which one is it, and which one's MAGA?
I'll tell you, Eric. Here's how you know what it is. Because Trump didn't sign an executive order about that. He tested the material at a rally.
Yeah, he flipped it out there. He focus grouped it.
He focus grouped it. He sent it out there into the era to see the vibes, to test the vibes, to see the reaction. The reaction has been extremely powerfully against that proposal. And I imagine he's going to take the reins from Brooke Rollins pretty soon on this. He's not going to give in, because it test grouped really poorly.
Tuesday, they delivered the agriculture, this big event. It was Pete Hegseth was there, Defense was there, Justice was there, Pam Bondi was there, Kristi Noem was there, Homeland Security, and it was Brooke Rollins' ag USDA that put it out there. And she, on that podium, said, we will be doing it, not mass deportations of farmers, but it'll be on us.
All right, let's stick with let's stick with the deportation question. Right, this is a public policy question of some significance for the economy, for people who think people shouldn't be in this country illegally. Right, there's big questions about everybody. I think now, maybe not everybody, but most everybody would say, whether they're MAGA or not, people who came here illegally and have committed crimes should go. Right, and that we have the bandwidth to do that, and that won't destroy the economy. Then there's the question of people who are here legally, who are big contributors to the economy, big contributors, right? People in hospitality and ag say, we can't do our jobs. And that's not just about their businesses, it's about America, if we can't have access to these workers. And then there's the question of, okay, let's say they're right. What do we do? Is there a way to find a way for them to still have access to those workers?
Well, you're assuming they're right, Mark.
Well, I'm saying no, I'm not assuming they're right. I'm saying
let's say they're right.
Well, just as a hypothetical.
As a purist, deport MAGA.
Yeah.
Or you're here illegally, you go home, you come back in the right way, or just go home. And guess what will happen? Yes, you'll have to pay an American farm worker or someone who's cleaning hospital or hotel rooms more money, because they're American and they're not coming over and illegally.
I totally agree. But
so
totally
inflation goes up, prices go up.
Understood. And just to be clear, when I said assume they're right, I didn't mean I'm saying they're right. I'm saying that's part of the decision tree that the president's thinking about, because the president's hearing from a lot of his friends who's saying that is the right position, right?
So and it is, except when you do that, prices go up, and he is very focused on lowering inflation, lowering the price of food and energy. So he's caught himself. He's painted himself kind of into a corner.
He has, and clearly if we keep making that exception, if we keep saying, well, people who get here illegally, who decide they're going to be in jobs that the president's friends say are necessary, get to stay, that's not a great system. But so here's my question, Batya first. I want to get to the bottom of where the American people are on this. And we can't do it based on the election, because the president didn't run on letting hospitality and ag workers stay here, right? That's a new thing he's dangling out there. So if I gave you $10 million and I cloned you both, how would you try to figure out where the American people were on this issue? Because I don't think polling does it, because it's too complicated to poll. People will say, you can't come here illegally, but yeah, I don't want to not be able to go to my favorite hotel. So how can we figure out not just what the right position is, but where the American people are? Is there a way to do that?
Can I answer a different question?
Sure. That's the rules of this program that was in your contract. So sure, answer whatever you want, but at least be in the ballpark.
I'm not an expert on polling. I mean, I imagine you would have to ask complicated questions like if prices would go up by this much, would you support
what
it?
I'm
If
saying,
they would go by that much.
I'm saying don't do it on polling. Like, who would you want to talk to? Would you want to talk to the owners? Would you want to talk to the workers? How would you determine whether Eric's right that other people would take these jobs?
I hear from people all the time who are doing these jobs. Do you know the percentage of illegal migrants who represent agricultural workers? From the way both left and right talk about it, you would think it was somewhere around 95%.
Of
illegal migrants who work in agriculture. Do you want to guess what the actual number is?
40.
I'd guess 25.
It's 28%, which means that 72% of agricultural workers are American citizens.
Yeah.
It is disgusting to talk about hardworking people like their jobs are beneath them. And we're seeing now already that since President Trump took office, 2 million more Americans are in the workforce and 500,000 fewer illegals. It turns out they were taking jobs from Americans. It turns out they were driving down the wages. So this whole narrative that these people don't have workers is nonsense. There's a shortage not of labor, there's a shortage of cheap labor. Now, the question of inflation in terms of food is a really important one. Let's separate out agriculture from hotels, okay? Because, like, give me a break. You know, it's around this similar to 28% of, you know, people who clean hotels are illegals. So I'm sorry, but those hotels that are employing illegals, they will just have to pay Americans a little bit more money to attract them to fill up that, you know, 28% or what have you. Those people work really hard and deserve good wages. When it comes to agriculture, all of the small farms, all of the medium-sized farms, all of the farms that are owned by families, they all employ legal American workers. It's the massive multi-billion-dollar corporations that are demanding a slave caste in order to do those jobs. And I think caving to them, to those people, you might as well be a Democrat.
Eric, it's the OG MAGA. I get your principled position on who should be deported. But where do you think the country is? Do you think the country agrees with you?
No. I think it's a moment in time. I think MAGA and America First populist movement is very, very strong and may last for a long moment, so to speak. But that's where we are right now. I think the country is probably far more, let's call it libertarian. Mark, at Fox, I once put out an idea, and it got a lot of steam on Capitol Hill. The 12 or 15 or 20 million illegals who are here already, we should offer them not a pathway to citizenship, but an asylum where they can stay. They're not going to become citizens unless
sort of legal status.
Some sort of legal status. We're not going to get deported, but they can continue to work in these jobs. And you could easily implement this at the driver's bureaus in every single state. You're illegal. You want to turn yourself in here. I'm legal. Here's my paperwork. I know I'm not going to become a citizen and vote right away, but I'm going to pay taxes and I don't have to worry about being deported anymore. I think that's where most Americans are.
Eric, I'm sorry. You are so wrong about that. There have been 5 polls in the last 6 months asking Americans, should every single illegal alien be deported? And the numbers of support on these 5 polls ranged from 55% to 64%.
But Batya, this is what the president would call bullshit. Because they would say, should the law, basically, do you think the law should be adhered to? They'd agree. But then if you'd say, the lady who sews your buttons on, Do you want her deported? She's here illegally. They'd say, well, no, she's valuable.
Mark,
That's why I think
the percentage of people employing those people is the percentage of people who are employing illegal migrants are accounted for in the 35% who oppose it. That's the elites. You think that regular people working class jobs in the heartland are employing illegal aliens?
But if you add on to that,
they might be taking care of their kids.
If you add on to that question, would you want anyone who's illegal, period? You're here illegally, you want them deported. And the backside of that, with the understanding that your food prices will go up anywhere between, I don't know, 5 to 7%. So your eggs, your 250 eggs this week, maybe, $2.80 or $3, you might get a different polling number.
Exactly.
And by the way, is how you frame the question, who delivers the polling, as Mark will obviously tell you. The question is how to the letter of the law do you want to be, and are you willing to risk the greater economy, maybe even inflation, et cetera, that attitude?
Let me say two things, and then we're going to move to a different topic. First, Batya, I wasn't saying what you were saying was bullshit. I was making a joke.
You can say what I'm saying is bullshit. I
was making a joke about the president used it twice this week. But I just feel that way about the polling on this issue, as I said, because I think people have split views. They don't want the law broken. Eric, and second on this is, Eric, the thing you said about legal status, as you know, there are people who consider themselves super OG MAGA who think that's amnesty. But that is, I think, that's where most politicians are, except for the ones who feel heat from the left and the right. And I think that's where the country would be if there was a big national discussion.
I don't think so. You guys, I hear from people all the time who agree with the polls. And by the way, you're saying the polls don't mean anything. Well, the number has gone up from 38% in 2016 to 55% today. Does it not mean anything that the polling is changing?
It does. Because it's been in the news. If you walk everybody through the realities of deporting the second 10 million, the realities that will impact them for the second 10 million, I don't believe people would say they should be deported.
I just want to say one more thing about this. We can move on. I was talking to a truck driver a couple months ago about tariffs, and I think he encapsulated a feeling that I hear a lot from normies, like regular people who are not following anything too closely. What he said to me was, so you're telling me that if I pay a little bit more money now for certain goods or services, my kid will have a better shot at the American dream. And you think I'm going to turn that down? I am a working class man. My whole life is about sacrificing for my child.
Yeah.
That is the point of it. Like, I think you guys are totally wrong about this. And I think all the politicians, you're right, except for Trump, are totally in the amnesty camp. And they're completely divorced from where 60% of Americans are at.
All right. You and I in August are going to go to Southern Illinois and talk to real people, see what they say.